This would be the last of the videos devoted to this subject. So, for a final time, we take a look at the unmade episodes, the troublesome taglines, and the perpetrating plots of the specials of the Russell T Davies era. Sources: The Writer's Tale Update, which is the final chapter which stores all or most of these ideas. Now come on, let's get this over and done with. Based upon the idea of how successful the chance ideas of Voyage of the Damned worked with having Kylie Minogue with the Titanic, Russell thought up the idea to have a current writer who was riffing on the idea of the pseudo-historicals of the Unquiet Dead, the Shakespeare Code, and the Unicorn and the Wasp that kids would recognise. So J.K. Rowling was placed as a celebrity as she would have battled magical creatures and see her works come to life. David Tennant shot the idea down as he was not positively up for it being a spoof of the show and of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, so Russell then proceeded with the Next Doctor idea instead. After dropping the J.K. Rowling idea, Russell resorted into developing the idea of a Cyberman's hand crawling out of the grave at Christmas, which spawned the further ideas of the Next Doctor. Most of the ideas retained for the episode, apart from those obviously seen in the deleted scenes, such as the sort of early reveal of Jackson only having one heart. The only big change that Russell felt he should have implemented was that instead of the Dimension Cannon being used to get rid of the Cyber Kings, the last act of destroying the machine would send it off into the Time Vortex. However, this was done far too late. For the next special, Russell almost prepared an old idea that he was going to use to collaborate with the first collaboration of the specials with Gareth Roberts. The Doctor would meet up with a female pilot who would become his companion for the adventure. The TARDIS also materialised in the midst of a Star Wars-style dogfight in space. The Doctor would finish the battle by finding a weapons jamming device. This was also briefly developed into a revival of an old idea of a Star Trek crossover, originally to tie in with the current series at the time, Enterprise, back in 2004 to 2005. This was possibly brought on by the hype and the wait for the 2009 Star Trek film reboot. Russell took out the spoof idea because he wasn't happy for it being used as last specials and thought it would possibly ruin the lineup that he would have. Gareth decided to take one of the ideas from this spoof, which was the war in space, and develop it further. Gareth decided to use the villains from his first new adventure, The Highest Science, which were the Chelonians. Russell had also passed on to him that he should have borrowed one of the other elements from the original novel, which was the fact that a train carrying the Doctor was able to take him to the planet Sakrat and transfer it into a double-decker bus in the space war. A subplot developed at this time was with a hotel and that somebody had been laying alien eggs in a room in the hotel. With the entire structure of the specials becoming from 3 to 4, it was decided that the elements could be switched out and moved back into the remaining episodes. The hotel subplot was dropped because it was being used for the next special by Phil Ford. Russell and Gareth also found there was too many problems with the script, like the simple answer of having how the bus passengers could speak through the reaches of space if it doesn't have air. As the questions grew for Russell and Gareth, they decided to make it easier by shifting his bus from space to an alien planet. Russell had the idea of placing one of the final specials in a foreign location, but he felt like the Easter special fit the location better. The main one-off companion of the special was going to be Rebecca, an overweight tour guide in the mold of Tracy Turnblad from the 1988 movie Hairspray, who was created by Gareth. Russell was against this and then created the cat burglar Hermione, who then went through a name change to Christina before Russell tried to change it again to a middle-aged housewife named Eileen. However, when casting came array of no possible actors for Eileen, Christina was chosen instead. For the next special, Russell wanted to revive an idea for the 2008 Christmas special slot where the Earth would be frozen in time. The action itself would take place in the hotel where originally a father of the family would have been the Doctor's companion to find the rest of the family. However, this was changed to a grandmother to entice the actresses such as Judi Dench and Helen Mirren into the episode. He'd also placed in that whilst the Earth was frozen, the Aliens of Which Act would take place in a festival outside the hotel to celebrate. At the end of the special, the Ood would pop up and this would be the ending of the Doctor, which would carry on until the Regeneration special. Phil Ford took over writing duties from Russell, who was then having second thoughts about the idea before Phil turned the draft into the adventure, where it turned out that he had added more elements to it, such as a sword fight between the Doctor and the aliens, and a chase under Buckingham Palace. Russell cancelled the idea when the logistics and the budget for the story became too big for the team, having to see how they would be able to produce an empty part of London on a budget, something they were able to do in the more cheaper The Sarah Jane Adventures story, The Empty Planet. Phil's draft didn't help as this added more cost to the overall budget to afford the changes that had been made from the treatment to draft stage. After the previous story was passed on, Russell brought up a new story based on a Mars base in the middle of the 21st century, just as soon as news of water existing on Mars had hit. The story now took place on Camp Bove. The captain, who was then named Valentina Kerensky, who was changed to Grace due to be sounding too similar to Tanya Kerbuk, the character that Helen Mirren played in the 1984 film 2010, and then Adelaide when Grace had already been used for a companion for the Doctor Who 1996 film. The special itself was in contention of moving a lot on the schedule. By October 2008, it could have been the Halloween 2009 special, or it could have even aired on Saturday the 19th of December, instead to lead it into the two-part special. November 2008 nearly killed the special as the 2008 credit crisis balanced into the show. The episode, entitled Red Christmas at this point, could have been cancelled entirely altogether. However, executive producer Julie Gardner was able to scrape up the cash, so this meant that the episode would stay and become a major part of the story the 10th Doctor performed to Grace for his last adventure. However, more bad luck could go wrong with the special. Planet of the Dead was going to be the first special broadcast in HD, but the special did not have enough money allocated in its budget to allow for such a feat, so money was shelved from this special, losing the CG versions of The Flood that got replaced with the prosthetics heavy versions. A major script change was the ending, where originally the Doctor saved all the people on Bowie Base 1, and time changed that way, but it was better to have Adelaide commit suicide at the end to have the Doctor's actions more seriously affect his character. The last thing that was majorly changed was the broadcast date. The BBC had problems with an episode being aired right before the Christmas season, as it would be overhyped and overmarketed by the next specials instead of the one before it, so it was moved closer to the autumn, and most of the Christmas references in the episode were taken out. The story of these last two specials actually goes back to 2006, where Russell knew he had the idea for these specials in his head. Most of his time being spent on when the last special for his run as showrunner would happen to be, as it changed between 2009 and 2010. It was felt that with Russell leaving in 2010, David Tennant, who had just joined the programme in 2006, would have left at this time as well. However, in 2008, a massive spanner was thrown into the works when David Tennant had learned about new ideas that Stephen Moffat, the new showrunner, would have had. So, on April 16th, he had a conversation, which resulted in David saying no. Ideas that came about the specials would have been a mini-series that would have been broadcast in 2010, moving Series 5 to the autumn period, a two-part special that would lead directly into Series 5, perhaps having the 11th Doctor have his debut story in one of the specials instead of Series 5 Episode 1, pushing specials back to January 2010 to allow time for the takeover of the new team. None of these were used, but the idea of a two-part special was included instead, where it replaced a one-part finale special idea that Russell had for the last special, which was the TARDIS materialising on board of a spacecraft carrying a family of aliens. The Doctor would sacrifice his life to prevent a radiation leak and to save these ordinary, important beings. Now with double the time of the original idea, Russell scrapped the idea because he was worried that it would become too anticlimactic, as many people would judge. So he decided to salvage the beginning and the end of the story to use a new two-part epic in which he would write instead. After getting rid of the one-part idea, Russell decided to place a new beginning prologue with the Ood, who had returned from the last time when they saw the Doctor in Planet of the Ood. The epilogue of the special would now be a tour of all the Doctor's companions before he would regenerate. But the main new idea Russell had brought to the special was the resurrection of the Master from his death in Last of the Time Lords. One idea was to have the Doctor and Master switch bodies, but the idea did not seem suitable for the specials. However, Russell had changed his idea to a gate which had the power to turn everyone in the world into the Master. His first special finally had the title, The Immortality Gate. Wilfred Mott was brought as the companion and the Master was the villain. Originally, these specials would be set in a faraway location outside the United Kingdom, when Russell thought of including some outside UK filming to the special, but this was shelved to use towards Planet of the Dead instead. However, in November, like The Waters of Mars, the two-part special was almost affected majorly by the 2008 credit crunch. This time, the effects would only have crunched the episodes down to 45-minute normal episodes, but efficient money saving was able to save the two specials from being put down in any way. From this, an initial idea to have the Master trapping Earth and Gallifrey's place in the Time War was dropped, but the Time Lords were gained from this. The Daleks were originally going to appear alongside them, but they were dropped for a bigger return in Victory of the Daleks, which is better suited for them. More plots were dropped, such as Trinity Wells getting a big scene, which was removed for being self-indulgent. The Mr. Dane's Master, a Master version of the Naismith Butler, was also going to rebel against the Master, and many more ideas were changed, shelved, or added in at the same time. But on March 5th, 2009, Russell sent his initial draft of the second episode to Stephen Moffat, telling him to write the first line of the 11th Doctor's era. He instead wrote a monologue, and after all that, the 11th Doctor's era was born.